Sumner County Attorney. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the Volunteer Fire Department Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Hyde, do you mind doing the invocation?
Father, we thank you for the wonderful opportunity that we have to be here tonight to conduct the business of this great county. We pray that your blessings, your direction, and your guidance will be upon everything that we do. We pray in that name. Amen.
And if there's no objection, I'm going to move item 5 to item 4. I'm going to flip those two. Is there any objection? All right. Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Oh, yes. So, second.
Second. All those in favor? Any nays? All right. I'll take nominations for chairman.
I'd like to group chairman and vice chairman and nominate Ben as chairman and John Michael as vice chair.
Any seconds?
I'll second it.
All right. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I will turn this over to Commissioner Harris then.
So we got the agenda for the old business. We have no.
So we're actually recognition of the public, but there is none, so we're good.
There's none here. We don't have any old business, so we jump right into new business. Introduction of members. I think everybody in here knows everybody. I don't think we need to.
I think we're okay with that.
I've known Mr. Hyde since the beginning of time. Beginning of my time.
Yeah, just about. And I'm remaining quiet.
The purpose and scope of the Volunteer Fire Department Ad Hoc Committee. Well, the purpose of it is to trying to figure out the funding mechanism for helping the volunteers out. So, anybody, Mr. Hyde, do you have anything on that?
No, not on the purpose, and you know, until we get into the actual discussion of the meat of the thing.
Mr. County Mayor, do you have anything? Yes, sir. Okay. Item C is produce order rules of the committee. I mean,
Robert's rules usually work for us, right?
what we're doing, so.
I would like to caveat that, if I may.
Go ahead.
Chairman, we do have standing rules for the county. When those don't answer the question, we go to Robert's rules, so that would be my
We're
suggestion.
following the county rules as approved by the county commission. Discussion current funding situation, volunteer fire departments. That's what we're all here for.
Yes, sir.
The floor is open.
Well, I guess I can start this one off. So the reason I asked for the committee is I know there's a lot of questions on about funding and our future funding. There's been questions about getting rid of the county funding altogether and going to utility districts or going to other forms of funding that take the county completely out of it, which, of course, most of us are pretty opposed to. Well, all of us are opposed to it in the volunteer service here in the county. So the biggest thing is in the past we've gotten as little as $8,000, actually hundreds of dollars, but most of us are getting $24,000 per station at this point, with a total budget of $450,000. I came into the budget hearings this year asking for $1,023,000 and some change. And honestly, that's still not going to be enough in the long run, but that's definitely going to be plenty for a while. And so what we would like to do is, if we can get that amount of funding or something close to, and go back to open up this discussion about a contract system and a funding formula, to where instead of going per station, the money can be opened up per department, using home values and square mileage and a few other things I know everybody at the table has seen multiple times by me already. That's going to be a little bit fairer because you got areas like Shackle Island that has plenty of home value, Shackle Island, that's got the most home values in the county, the most expensive homes and the biggest number of them in a tight area, where they only have one station. So they're only getting $24,000 a year right now, compared to Highland, which has a very sparsely populated area, and the housing is not nearly as expensive out that way, but they're getting $73,000. They have 3 stations, so it is more to keep up with, but there's a need just as big in number one's district in Shackle Island as in the other.
So Shackle Island's larger home value than it is in number one area?
Yes, their mileage is not quite as big, of course, but they're more densely populated, and the home values are magnificent. If you, I think on my slide, forgive me for not bringing a copy of it, but with the funding formula, right now they've got $1.3 billion worth of home value in their 15, 20 square mile area, where Highland, who has like a 55 square mile area, I think they're in 700 million is their value of their homes. Not that any value is more than the other, it's just the amount of housing that they have and the value they're protecting. It's just it's a lot of the areas to take care of. And so they need more equipment and different kinds of equipment than Highland would. But I have to say, I want to try to smooth that out a little bit. Plus, we were given $136,000 as a group that we had to decide where that money would go out of that $450. And so halfway through the budget year, we're all trying to come back and ask the county commission to approve $10,000 to be transferred into our accounts. We have to show receipts. We have to purchase the equipment beforehand. And so it's just a lot of rigmarole just to give us another $10,000. So no matter how we do it, we want to make sure everything's lumped in together and then given to the fire departments in whatever manner y'all would approve. But we don't want to have to come back for anything throughout the budget year. And the contract, which would be nice about, and I know I'm kind of skipping around, apologies, is that would tie us down for, right now I'd say from property assessment to property assessment. So next year we don't have to come back and do this whole song and dance again. Whatever amounts you approve this year will be tied to those values, and we won't come back and ask for another dime extra until the next assessment, when others have changed.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Ask away, sir.
If we come up with a funding mechanism, who's going to be in charge of making sure each department gets the adequate funding?
Well, if you use
Who's going to make that decision?
Well, if you use the funding formula that I've already, well, I didn't create, that I have, which is made by CTASC years ago, then the county finance office will have it. The tax assessor's already done the numbers, so everything that's in there is already figured. So I just have to send it to the tax assessor. The finance office. They would review it to make sure everything is correct, and then sign the checks that way. And then once that's in place, again, for 5 years, that number wouldn't move.
So what guarantee do we have that that money is going to go for the protection of the citizens in that area?
The same guarantee that you have right now, and that would also be in the contract.
You know, we got into this one other time years ago. I don't know if you were involved in that.
I don't think I was involved in that.
Yeah, I think it was White House. Was it White House that we give that money to? And they, well, I better not say that.
No, that was the Sumner County Fire
It was the Sumner County Fire.
Oh yeah, I was a teenager still then.
Okay.
Yeah, that was 2000 when they went down, I think, or 2002.
Had several districts.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a whole different cause by then.
Yeah.
And see where that department fell totally. We've picked up all the ashes and run with it since then. But in that contract, I've sent a contract to Mr. Sittler, and I don't know if you ever reviewed it, but we could put in there whatever you wanted as far as this money goes to support the volunteer fire department, and everything would have to go in nonprofit. And we turn in budgets every year, and we still would. Anything that you wanted to have, we'd give to you to make sure it's done correctly.
We can't if we give them money, we can't specifically tell them what they use it for, can we?
Not without taking on the liability.
That's exactly right.
That's the biggest problem with this.
Yeah.
And I'm still unclear on that. Well, I'm not involved.
No, I need your input.
Well, I still don't understand. You asked a great question, which is who's going to oversee the disbursement of the funds? I don't understand y'all's hierarchy as far as White House, volunteer. What is the other ones that are out there?
Well, the only reason, they've kind of put me in charge, I'm the representative for the fire chiefs, the Sumner County Fire Chiefs.
But they're each independent entities?
Yes, we have
That would involve a contract with
8
all
entities.
these entities.
We have 8 separate volunteer fire departments inside Sumner County. And then, so yes, it would technically be 8 separate contracts of each one.
What gives you authority to
Talk for all
on their behalf?
Well, they've all sent me here to do this. We have a regularly scheduled chiefs meeting where I have been the representative, but at any point we can call anybody you want to find out. And I mean, I've kind of been put in charge of this situation, and if we come to an agreement, all the fire chiefs will go with whatever we agree with, to a point. You know, if I come back and say, hey, listen, we have a contract, here's what the contract is going to say, we could have a chiefs meeting and have you show up or anybody. We could sit at this table with all 8 of us and figure that out.
Well, let me ask you this. No one volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
because I used to be one years ago with military animal service. If you give, let's say you give Highland $100,000 this year,
Mm-hmm.
and you give number one $500,000 a year, what kind of war is that going to start?
None.
None?
We've already talked about it.
Okay.
Yep, we sat down with every chief, inside, well, we had multiple meetings. We've had one at Shackle Island, Town, where all the fire chiefs showed up. And, I presented this formula, which is something we've been talking about for a few years now. But we sat down with all of them, I showed them the numbers, because in this formula, the way it works out, Shackle Island comes out the rosiest. They go from the least amount of money, or at least the least possible amount of money, to the most. And everybody has stood behind it and said that they agree with it because of the way we're doing it. And the formula makes sense. They've all agreed to this. Now, again, I know I'm just one person, but it'd just be hard for 8 fire chiefs to come in this room and all argue at one time about different things. But if I know they're all going to stand, they're all agreed to what I'm presenting here. I wouldn't be here.
I mean, I don't doubt that. I just surprised that there's not any here to, you know.
Well, we all know how it's gone in the past, and Southeast and Highland have got 3 stations. Highland has 3, Southeast has 2. But we've seen over the years how the station model just doesn't work for us. It's not a fair way to go either. But we just didn't have any recourse when we tried to. I think in the past we've had a few chiefs in 2018, I believe was the last time, or 17, that came before the committee to try to change the system, and it was taken down. No one at the time saw it and decided it was the right thing to do. So last budget season, we started talking about it and kind of getting it in the minds. And so this has been a year and a half in the working, or almost 2 years for us in the workings to get to this point. And so I think we have everybody on the same point. But this is something, if you need a model for it, Robertson County has been doing this now since '97. This same exact formula, modified just slightly for us. But it doesn't cause any issues on that county.
Does the county, in Robertson County, do they recognize the fire department?
Yes.
See, that's the difference. Because you're not. We can't.
Well, it's the same system where we are nonprofit over there.
Yeah.
When I say recognize, they call us and bring us to the table. I know Sumner County's always said we're not in the fire business. I've heard that for my entire life. And I completely understand. Robertson County is doing the exact same thing that Sumner County is, just on a grander level. The only difference with them is they have to involve cities. Because on that side, you have Greenbrier City, Ridgetop, that not only has their city, but they also run county area as well, which is why I say the funding formula is slightly different on that side. But, not to get lost in the weeds, but every fire department would be happy if we went with straight off the numbers that I turned in. If we got back and said this is where it goes, this is how we're going to split it, no one would have a problem with that. As far as who administrates it, I'm sorry, John Michael. But like I said, if the finance director already now has a line by line that says this department gets 24, this one gets 73, this one gets 48, however it works, it'd just be the same. They cut the check the same way. 8 different checks for us. If that makes sense.
So I keep saying nonprofit. Are you a C3 or are y'all a nonprofit?
501c3. All of us are. Yes, all of us are 501c3.
Does you had something to come out?
No, he answered.
Okay.
I just know what we're doing now just ain't working. And I'd like to go to the next thing. And again, I know a few commissioners have mentioned about full subscription models, and going to utility-based districts. I have talked to the two examples that Mr. Mansfield brought up. I have talked to both of them. One of the biggest one is Blount County, who uses a utility district that they pretty well put a fee on. They put a fee to the citizens in the county, just like a water company does.
Well, I don't know how they do that. They probably had to do a private act on that.
There's a private act and there's a community board that kind of takes care of their situation. But talking to their fire chief, his pretty well verbatim words were, "Oh God, please don't," because
They are a formed entity, and that also makes them eligible for certain grants, federal grants, and things of that nature. I've done a little bit of research on it, so that's the positive spin of it. I'm just telling you what I've read. I've got
I
no
know,
dog in the fight.
yeah, there are back grants for volunteer fire departments.
yes,
Have y'all applied to any of those?
absolutely, that's the only way we're surviving right now.
So y'all are getting the grant money?
Yes, Southeast, that's how they bought their trucks. Last year, I know Cottontown has gotten some. We got some last year.
I think number one got one year, didn't it?
Yes, I mean, just about every year somebody's getting, one or a couple of us are getting pretty good grants.
Applying for each year.
Yeah, every one of us is applying every year. Yes, and literally that's the only reason we're able to do what we do now, because with the way that Sumner County is funding us the $24,000 per station with no contracts, there's no way to get finance for a new fire truck because they take your funding structure, and because there's no guaranteed money for any kind of time, they won't take that into account. Like I know Highland's they're having to put one of their trucks as collateral to build their new station too.
What do all of the fire departments currently do for it? Don't they have a subscription?
No, not a subscription, but we all do fundraising of some way or shape or form. I know Highland was out at the Strawberry Festival this weekend. Tab said they made like $250. We do mail-outs at our station. We're pretty successful with that. Some stations are able to. I know Highland tried that year before last and spent $2,000 or $3,000 to do it, and I think they pretty well came back even, if I remember right.
I think number one just did a mail out.
Mm-hmm. And of course, number one is the pancake breakfast as well.
If you, subscription services, does that put you in a position where you have to say, did they pay the subscription fee and do we go or do we not go?
Yes. Well, not so much do we go or not. It's do we charge when we get there, and how you charge when
You're
we get
able
there.
now to build insurance, are you not?
We able to, as far as I'm aware, we're able to request money from insurance companies, and sometimes in their policy they have a very small amount that they'll give back to us. Sometimes it's $100, sometimes it's $2. But usually in the policy there's not a large payment for volunteer fire departments.
But are y'all trying to recoup any of that money on
Sometimes
motor
to
vehicle?
get the $200, sometimes it's more work than you get out of it. You've got all the paperwork it takes, and of course all of us have real jobs and
I get it.
other things, and so it's super hard to dedicate days and hours to get back $100 from an insurance company, and you have to fight and struggle and call and to even get that.
So you're saying you're spending $300 to get $100?
And in some cases, the insurance never has paid out well, or all of us would be on that bus. And with the subscription model, what that looks like is pretty well you send out a letter to everybody in your zone, which it costs initially anyways, and you pretty well tell them you're buying. To me, it's like you're buying fire insurance from us. Hey, if we run a medical call to your house, we charge you $200 a year. I think it's the number for Blount County. We'll charge you $200 a year. Not Blount County, excuse me, Carnes. If we respond to a medical call at your house, which every time they page out an ambulance, they page out a fire department. If we respond to a medical call at your house, it's $200 right there we're going to charge you. If we respond to a structure fire, I think again Carnes was $2,000 for the first hour, and then $1,000 per apparatus after that. Your average structure fire is 2 to 3 hours, if not longer. And for us, the average apparatus, you're talking 4 to 5 trucks out there, and so that could be $5,000 an hour for 3 hours. So the burden on that grows, and once you get the subscription, you have to hire a full-time secretary just about to keep up with who's paid, who hasn't, the billing after the fact for every call you get to, or hire a third party. And it's a full-time job.
Another question.
Yes.
For us to, there's no way that we can raise taxpayers' money to fund the volunteer fire department without recognizing them, correct? They've got to be, there's a law that
They'd have to be by referendum.
there's got to be a referendum to do what do they call it? It's
It'd be a direct tax.
fire tax, excuse me. I don't know why they say that. You're right, fire tax. So we couldn't do anything like raise sales tax or implement anything without having a referendum to do that.
That's correct.
And just to be sure, that's if you were doing it that way. To stay in the nonprofit route, nothing would have to change though, correct?
Where else do you think we're gonna get the money?
Well,
If we did do something like that.
I mean, listening to the budget hearings, I'm no finance guy when it comes to this kind of numbers. Your budget is a little bit advanced for me. But listening to certain conversations, I do listen to every budget meeting. I know that debt services money had to move to capital because debt services money was way too much in there looking bad for the comptroller. So you had to move a large amount of it over to capital projects, which can be spent wherever you want. It can be moved around. I know that Tubby was just given $20 million to do all the projects he wants for the 3 years. I'm not budget guy. I just know numbers I hear. So legalities is your thing. But not for all projects he wants. I mean, get him caught up. I know the reasoning behind that. But I heard the tourism is one way that they're trying to raise some money for us, which that's 300 of the 300 of it. I just need 200 more. I figure it's got to be somewhere in this budget, as it currently stands, to get us to the point we were asking. But as far as a fire tax, that's something.
And you think, what'd you say? We'll take care of the whole county?
Well, the what I've asked for is it's $1,023,000. I think it's a little over double what we have been using. We've been doing $450.
Yeah.
And so we asked for that. And again, just looking at the numbers of the county and all the things that we do fund out there, I can't imagine it's not in there somewhere. But again, I'm not a budget person, but
I think it's more about vehicles. It's about where you're housing the vehicles. I know, number one, they have to use a porta-john.
so does Gallatin Section 2.
Yeah. And that's always bothered me, that you're having to, we're dependent on those folks to, some of the most expensive homes in Gallatin now where I'm at.
They can't wash their hands.
They can't even wash their hands. They have to bring water with them to wash their hands and clean the engines and everything else. So.
Well, that's the part that has always gotten to me with a lot of this stuff. Is we have some really beautiful houses in the county. There's my last count was around 66,000 people who live in the county that are all taken care of by volunteer fire departments. And, when it comes to the tornadoes that came through, the bad storms, the flooding, we're not only out in the county taking care of stuff, but we're in the cities. Hendersonville and Gallatin both use us all. Millersville is using us now. We get around everywhere and help everywhere.
Volunteers, all the cities.
Exactly. We're always everywhere, and everywhere everybody needs us. But, our trucks are 30 years old. 2 stations I know of don't even have bathrooms. A lot of places don't even have a place for guys to sleep. I know during the last 2 big storms we've had, we've had a crew at our station of 15 guys who stayed there all night long, and then were awake all night, and then went to work the next morning. So I just know there's got to be something more we can do to get, a lot of these fire departments up to standard.
That's what I'm saying, I don't think a million, would you say, $1,023,000?
$1,023,000.
I don't think $1,023,000 is gonna take care of those
Well,
few things that I just mentioned.
it will not start off putting a bathroom at those two fire halls yet, but, it can start. It can start the process where the guys can have some money to save back and, to start financing. If we do the contracts, a lot of the departments have a capital there to finance new fire trucks. I know we're getting ready to buy 2 trucks at our station because of the Robertson County side gave us an increase last year, to where we're gonna finance 2 trucks for 25 years.
Other than the money that you're getting from the county, just take that out every year, how much money are you raising just in your department?
From the counties, take out all the counties, we're raising, I think, around $50,000 from, between our fundraisers and our, mail outs.
So you're operating it off, what, 75 a year?
Well, our operating budget's a little different than everybody else's because we have Robertson County, but our operating budget's somewhere around $400,000 a year. 270 of that coming from Robertson, 48 of that coming from Sumner, and then the extra mail outs and the fundraiser we do. I know because of the money we get from Robertson County, and a grant that we have for a safer grant that allows us to pay firefighters part-time, the fire department was able to hire me full-time last year. So I work full-time for a volunteer fire department at the moment. And that comes from, again, Robertson County, increasing our funds from 130 last year to 270. But $1 million would be a great start. And we wouldn't ask for another dime more for 5 years if we were able to do this and sign the contract.
You're talking $1 million per year.
$1 million per year, yes.
$1 million a year for the next 5 years?
Well, that'll be our new donation number. Instead of 450, it'd be $1,023,000. It's a lot. I'm not saying it's not, but it is 8 different departments that comes out of that. So you take that $1 million, split up even by 8. You know, it's not like we're not walking around in gold boots. That'll just get us out of the muck.
I've been doing all the talking, somebody else.
Well, I know there's a need. I'm not doubting that at all. But, and I meant to call Joseph Insminger, who is the person that was quoted by Mr. Mansfield, and find out more about that, because he is the chief investigator for the East Tennessee Division of the Controller's Office. He's the guy that comes in and nabs you if you are doing something wrong with money. And he is my daughter-in-law's brother. And I meant to call Joseph and ask him just exactly how that operates there, but I have not had a chance to do that. But I guess I'm thinking back to years ago, and Dan probably was around much of that time, but way back, we were given small amounts of money to the volunteer fire departments. I mean, just a few $1,000s. And I think this is just my feeling. I think that giving a little bit more and a little bit more has created an atmosphere of, well, let's ask for more next year and the next year. And I'm not sure, I may be interpreting that wrong. But there's several things that I struggle with. And one is the fact that in a district like where I live, it is fire is taxed with your city tax money, and the people in my district are already paying taxes for fire service.
Mm-hmm.
guess we're blessed in Hendersonville with an excellent fire department. But there, I think I read, John, where Hendersonville maybe had more stations per population than any other place in Tennessee. But we're already paying for that excellent fire protection, and it would be like, whether it's a tax or a donation or what, a double whammy for them, if you see what I'm saying, for the people in my district. I don't know how I would explain that to them, because it is strictly a problem. I would lean, without knowing more about the situation, and I intend to find out more, I would lean toward myself toward a utility district or subscription service. And I know in Hendersonville years ago, when I came to Hendersonville, we had just a volunteer fire department of the Hendersonville Private Fire and Police there on Sanders Fair Road. The building's still there, with one small truck and a constable that ran the police work. There it was, I understand, it was if they answer a call, they sent you a bill. Whether people responded or not, I don't know. I don't know the legalities. I'm not sure everything they did because I had just arrived in Hendersonville. But that's what I understand. And I have a little cabin and 20 acres in Hancock County in East Tennessee, which is probably one of the poorest counties in the nation, really. At one time, the Revenue Department said it was the fourth poorest county in the nation. And they have a really nice fire station. I don't know if you've ever been there or familiar with it all. They have a really nice fire station. And I understand the equipment is pretty good and a lot of community support. And they do it on contributions. And they just really work very, very hard. Even having a dinner every Friday evening is a community event. They serve a meal at the fire station every Friday. So there's the contribution element where, you know, there are innovative kinds of things I guess you could do. I can't see, I think the contributions are just getting bigger. It's really getting to a point where it would be difficult for me to explain to the people in my district that we're taxing them 2 times, the city and the county, for fire service. And my district is not a wealthy district. John's one of my constituents, so he knows that we live in a district where it's average, for the most part, average. And I know people struggle there to the point that my church is taking meals to kids on free lunch during the summer in that community. Now, there are some along the edges of the peninsula that are wealthy lake people, but not like the rest of my peninsula. It's hard for me to explain to these people that they're being double taxed.
I can understand.
I don't think I could support that. I want to look at some form of subscription. I'm not saying that we would never contribute to the fire department if it was my wish, but I don't know that I would be able to go as far as you're suggesting.
I understand that. It's hard stuff.
I have sympathy for these people that are out in the county that need, but it's how do we get them the service they need, and it's not, I don't want to support you.
I understand that. Well, I think, and no one, we haven't talked about it. We haven't wanted to mention it because no one wants to talk about it. But if that is the main struggle, which is what I hear from a lot of the county, a lot of the county commissioners, is that, well, you know, I'm already paying for fire service in my city, so that means I don't want to double tax my people to pay for your people. And I get that totally. You know, I know Samantha's going to hate that, but
So not the same thing that we do with the highway department and law enforcement and.
that's where I'm going to go right next.
Well, with highway department, you actually, the people in the city are using those highways, and they're paying the taxes and using them. Like on my way up here, I use my county roads.
But they also use us whenever they
Whenever they go on those county roads and they crash their vehicle.
If they're at a friend's house and they have a heart attack, or we get them if a tornado goes to the middle of Hendersonville, we respond in. So, I mean, I see that and I can understand it. I can tell you if you look at other counties that compare to us, we're talking $4 to $5 million that they get from their fire departments as a donation, just like we are. You know, we're one of the population size, if you look at where we should be, we're giving about $6 per citizen in the county area right now per, what is it? I think we're averaging $6 per person in the county. The next closest to us is like $45 per person in the county going to the volunteer fire department. It's quite a big span of difference where we are and other counties that are even close to us on population size. Now, of course, there is always the fire tax model. I'm not always a big fan of that. But when you talk about subscriptions, we can send out subscription letters all day. The guy in Blount County, who's the only utility district in the state of Tennessee, and there's a reason why he's the only one, his budget is $3.5 million. He covers half of a county, and then he has 2 cities inside that county. In the county area that he protects, he stated that he's been doing this since the 80s. That's when he became a utility district. He still only gets 50% of funding from those county citizens. They don't have to. They're not going up. They don't have to. The only reason he has survived is because there's 2 cities that he contracts with that he provides their protection. And so their cities tax their citizens at 100% of their rate and then fund him. So he has 100% of these 2 cities and then 50% of his county that he does, which is why he survives. You run into the same problem with subscription bases, is if I can request the money and then I can bill you after the fact. But as far as I'm aware, and I'm sure Ms. Siller can tell me different, as long as we're remaining a 501c3 and then we don't have a recourse to go to a credit and try to collect this money or put liens on houses, as far as I'm aware. If we turn to a for-profit fire department like Metro Knoxville, then that turns us that we lose a lot of grants. We can't go for a lot of FEMA grants because if you're
There was rural metro.
rural metro, yes, sir. It's a for-profit at that point. And if we go that method, we lose a lot of grants. In that case, we can't apply for FEMA.
Well,
So I just think it's a lot of hard steps to get to. I said a fire tax would solve the problem, but it of course would involve taxing the people in the county to pay for their fire service at whatever rate. But it would be the county would collect it.
Tell me a little bit more about this utility district. Why is this guy against the utility district?
He said he has seen a lot of it. A lot of people try it and fail. One of the biggest problems with this particular county is we have 8 separate fire departments. For one, my fire department in White House could not do it if we wanted to because we also respond into Robertson County. And because we're a split zone right down the middle, we can't have a utility district on one side and a regular on the other.
Which goes back to the initial question I asked, who's going to be in charge of taking care of making sure all the money goes?
Well, when you have 8, you have to have 8 community boards for 8 different utilities. You have to have 8 different agreements with the county. And according to this guy who has done it a lot, he just said that's going to be impossible to have a utility. Plus, everybody thinks you're the water department.
One utility district for the county.
You'd have to, and you'd have to have everybody merge, and then you want to talk about a nightmare and keeping people at that point.
Why would that be?
Yeah, why? I don't understand why. If they're there to offer a service, they're there because they see the need. They're there because they want to protect life and property. So I don't know why
because,
that'd be a problem.
Well, I mean, this is getting a little further than I'm probably comfortable talking about for everybody, but, one Sumner County Fire Department, that is, when you get to a place like Westmoreland, for one, who's half city, half county, then you've got every fire department that's going to have to come under one umbrella. Who's going to manage that large of a group across the entire county? You're going to have, I mean, you're going to talk about full-time employees at that point, full-time building departments, to take care of all the money collected from all over the county to one place. It would, and then you're still not guaranteed the funding. So, if you get half the county subscribing, or even these different areas.
When we're calling it a utility district, I'm thinking about White House Water Utility District. So they send a bill out every month, and it may be $50 one month, maybe $30 the next month. Why could you not do that with the fire service with a utility district? I understand you got to have one person, and I still believe that needs to be somebody in charge of making sure everything is done in a proper business manner.
I mean, we have,
because when you got 8 different departments, you got 8 different ways they want to go. You know, this department over here may want to spend all theirs on training. This department over here may want to spend it on uniforms, which happened to us one time. Turnout gear. The other one over here, I mean, they're not all going to be wanting to. You need something to say, this is what you get, this is what we got. This is the needs here, this is the needs here, instead of having a wish list. I mean,
I understand. But I can see, well, when you've got 8 different fire departments, now granted I know it's a lot, but there's different needs at different departments. There are some that have turnout gear that got it a few years ago. They need apparatus. There are some that, needs to go to specialized training because they have specialized places. When you have your fire chiefs at these separate locations, the way we're doing it at this current time, because, I mean, you also have 8 separate entities that are all their own 501c3s at this point. So, I mean, there's no recourse to say Highland has to merge with Southeast, or, you have to do this over here, because they're all their own individual entities. We can't really tell anybody, hey, you have to merge if you want this money.
so if you got one department that's got 20-year-old turnout gear and they got a good engine, and you got another department over here that's got a good engine and sorry turnout gear.
That's why they have their chiefs make that decision. And that's where they're spending it on.
So, NFPA says you're supposed to change that gear out, whatever.
Or also ISO rated, which they come and look at that
10
stuff.
years?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, but right now we got guys running 20-year-old turnout gear because they can't afford it.
Well, I ain't gonna go there.
But they're running old turnout gear because they can't afford to buy new at the moment. And you're supposed to replace fire trucks after 20 years. There's 2 trucks in Galveston right now that are 30 years old that they're running because they can't afford to replace it. They don't have the funding. And so that's why I'm not so worried about having to manage where everybody's funds goes, because everybody across this county has never showed an issue with mismatched funding. The only department around here that ever had a funding issue that I'm aware of is the Sumner County Fire Department that went bankrupt.
I'm just asking these questions because
Absolutely.
these are questions and concerns that I've heard from other commissioners and stuff. I mean,
100%.
It's not just, I'm throwing it at you.
I hope so.
If you got to justify your want.
And I would love to be able to have at our next meeting, whenever we decide to do that, all the other fire chiefs here, so they can, they could be heard if wanted, to show their support and what they would think. But the utility district, in our current situation, is just not going to work. Again, once you put the utility in there, I understand it opens up to some funding, but as far as I'm aware, I don't think that there's a reason there's only one department in the county that does it. If it worked really well, everybody would be doing it, without question. And the subscription base is a tax to the citizen. It's either you're going to pay me this, or you're going to charge you a bunch of money on the back end that I may or may not have the ability to even enforce. So we're in the same situation we would be, except it just puts the burden on the fire department to have your own billing department.
I don't think think he could if he's a 501(c)(3), could he?
Which
By
part?
the subscription.
Put a lien on a house, I believe is what
They
you have to
can.
I gotta be very careful here because I represent the commission. I can't give him advice. But if you would like a punch list of things I've thought of since I've been here.
Sure.
So if you're all independent, it's, what I'm hearing is you want a lump sum of money to disperse with 8 other people who are under nobody's authority.
No, I'm asking for the fire department line item, and then under the nonprofit list to increase, and then the county would divvy that up in the same way they have been. And I'm providing a formula in which they would follow.
Who's gonna determine if the money was used the way it needs to be? Because we were talking about, that takes me right to performance metrics. How do we as a county know that the money's being spent properly? Because that's very much a pointed contract question.
Absolutely. One of the reasons we're doing this is to continue to lower our ISO rate, and so that would be a good metric. We also turn in budgets every year to the county to show where every dime goes that we do receive, which we'd be continually doing.
What's your ISO right now?
Currently, right now, it's a 6.7.
6. And what would $1 million get you down to?
Well,
Nothing.
I mean, we'd be back down to a 5 without a problem. Well, a 5 from a 6 can save something in my zone alone would save about $600,000.
On what?
And to the citizens in that area.
Spread out over how many people? Residents?
2,000.
2,000?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's money back in their pocket.
They're gonna save about what? $75 a year?
The difference is you go from a 10, like Northville and Cross Plains are right now.
Well, Millersville, that's different.
I know. I'm just using as an example of a fire department who is all volunteer that is no longer there. Their ISO ratings went up. Cross Plains, another city fire department that their ISO ratings went up to a 10. So to go from a department that is there, because if we don't do something about this volunteer fire service, we're going to have stations closed down. We can also increase the ISO coverage, because right now you have to be within 5 miles of a fire station to get any ISO credit.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a few black spots in the county, not very much, but a few left, that with increased funding, you can move a station in that direction that would cover those people.
It's gonna be awful hard for this county to ever get better than a 5.
Well, for residentially, it doesn't, lower than a 5 really doesn't matter. But it's also not the easiest to hit, because you got to have all your records in line, all your apparatus has to be up to date. You're supposed to have indoor plumbing.
Well, it's more than just that. It's a lot of other variables. I know I just got through doing that.
Mm-hmm.
With the city, so I mean.
Well, tanker shuttles are a big part of it too.
There's a lot more involved in the ISO than just making sure you got a fire truck.
Oh no, there's a bunch of stuff involved in
It's
it.
got response times. It's got everything. So.
Well,
Look, I'm not against giving y'all anything.
Absolutely, I
I'm
know.
gonna give you as much as we have to give.
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to find out the right way to do it, the legal way to do it, because I've been told all these years that we can't help the volunteer fire department the way I would like to help them, because we can't recognize the volunteer fire department.
Well, that's why I really asked this committee, because it has been on the back burner for a long time, and something that's been building to a crisis point, honestly, that we're getting to. And so that's the reason I really wanted to have this, is so we could spend however long it takes, whether it's 2 meetings or if it's a year's worth, and get this ironed out for the future, however we can do it. Because one way or another, there's got to be fire service in the county, to whether it's the volunteers serving the way we are now, whether it's the county putting on a full-time fire department in the future, which, in 10 years, you may not have a volunteer fire service. Volunteerism is dying. That's a whole different conversation. But
I'm sorry, Mr. I cut you off while ago.
Oh, yes,
That's fine.
what was that last one?
To answer your question, yes, I have seen utility districts to put lanes and.
They can.
Utility districts can, yes.
Yes.
But nonprofits was the question, I think.
I don't know, I'm gonna leave that for you to research.
Absolutely.
That's kind of getting out of my wheelhouse here.
That's so church.
I'm just curious what you consider a comparable county. Could you reference that a couple of times?
Yes, sir. I went by population is what I was looking at. So, I usually bring my whole slide sheet with me that I've got. I've made the presentation a few times. I used to have it committed to memory.
But you named the counties?
I did. I've got 20 of them.
If you shoot that over to me, I'd just like
I believe
to see.
you have it. I think I sent it to you already, but
I got the contract.
I thought I sent you my presentation as well. If not, I'll make sure you get it.
And my only other question would be, obviously, my biggest goal is to not put the county in any liability,
Of course.
but I heard reference of we've got a pot to dig into now. What happens if there's not, would be the only thing I throw back out there, because I don't want people getting ahead of their skis on this stuff when they start making big plans.
Yeah, just because it's $1 million there this year doesn't mean you're gonna have $500 next year. I mean, it's just.
That is the way it goes.
That's the way it is with county government.
I would, and I understand that completely. I can send this one to you. The other one that was close to us, population-wise, was Montgomery County. Their budget is $5.8 million. They have 227,000. Then Robertson County, which has half the population we do, their budget is $1.5 million.
I'm just looking for comparable counties.
Smith County, they give, well, their population is much less than us. Bradley County was another one. Bradley County has a total population of 60,000 in the county. Their budget is 5.7.
How's that a comparable county?
Because the county size themselves, the population in the county itself, we have about 66,000. Theirs is 60. The whole county as a whole is 200,000.
Rural areas.
The rural areas of the county. I
Unincorporated areas of the
apologize.
county.
Oh, you're using the out of municipality.
I use both areas. That's the reason I compared Bradley.
Gotcha.
Is their funding per person is $96 per person.
That's good. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll shoot this list over to you so you can see it. But, and if you compare us, like I said, to other counties, this is where we're behind. Anything else that you had a question on?
If you decide to take a path different than what's been in the past, as a group, you all might want to consider getting an attorney to talk to you about some formations or some pieces you may be missing. You keep talking about having to take on an admin person. Maybe you're at a point where you need one. Sometimes that's the only way you get the relief that you need and get your projects and your work done, because let's say they throw $1 million at this. My biggest concern, if I was an investor, would be I want to be able to walk in the door and see how you've spent my money. And that's where admin would come into play. But again, that and a buck will get you. So
did I understand that you're now a full-time employee?
Yes,
for
sir.
the volunteer?
I am. My one department, yes, sir.
In Robertson County.
Well, for my department in total, it is funded in Robertson County.
Right.
The reason I'm able to do that is because Robertson County increased our funding enough. That was part of their goal, was to help increase the volunteer fire department's employment across the county. And so once they increased everybody hired usually somebody.
So, what is your position?
I'm the full-time training officer,
For all of Sumner County?
just for White House Community Volunteer Fire
You're
Department.
a full-time employee for White House?
For White House Community, yes, sir. Not the city of White House, of course, the area outside of it. Our fire zone is 55 square miles. That is split almost 50-50 with Sumner and Robertson.
One person is not a problem, but I know exactly what you'll have an assistant.
We can afford it.
That assistant will have a secretary, and that secretary will have a clerk under them. That people are afraid of bureaucratic growth in government.
I understand. Well,
With this being a full-time employee, I know.
I didn't have to interrupt, sir, but I will tell you that the only reason I have a job is to answer calls. In Sumner County, none of us are really looking at any full-time employment. We're just looking to kind of catch up and get back to, I call it in code, to where, You know, all of our equipment's back in date. Nobody right now is really even if we could hire one person off the numbers that I've given you, again, I know it sounds like a ton, you split that across everybody, and Cottontown would have $100,000 a year. I think if they're $96,000 is what they would walk away with. So between the truck payment or buying all their equipment and day-to-day operations, you know, they're not going to be able to hire 3 or 4 employees, especially full-time. The best we could probably hope for is a CPA. Steve Frost?
Is he still helping?
As far as I know, he's still the treasurer in Shackle Island.
Okay, I thought y'all had something through, he had insurance.
ZFIS, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sells insurance to volunteer fire departments,
Right.
and so most of us use him. At least I know we do. I can't say most of it. But we,
He's been helpful in the past.
Oh, he's fantastic. And he's also the treasurer for Shackle Island. He takes care of their money. But I understand the worry about where the money's being spent, and all of us would be very open to show you books and open records, whatever it would take. But we have taken what the money we've gotten over the years, and I say now it's $24,000 per station, and all of us have worked and been so frugal with that to where we've stretched that out as far as we possibly can. It's as tight as it can get. Or you can, I know Southeast came recently and asked for their driveway to be done because they didn't have a whole lot of extra to go out there and, you know, pave it or do it themselves. We've got equipment that's not being tested annually, like NFPA says. We've got hydrants that we don't have time to go out and test. There's a lot of things that aren't getting done appropriately because the funding mechanism is not there, and because our firefighters are being taxed so much with having to do fundraising that we can't always concentrate on the job that needs to get done. If they're answering calls in the middle of the night or throughout the day or having to do up to 300 hours of the training a year, which is what we're supposed to have, it's 220 of just structural firefighting. So you throw in another 30 hours of first responder training on top of that, and then 16 hours extrication, 20 hours of driving.
I don't mean to stop you right there, but how many of your men are commission certified?
Right now, out of 50,
I should have just said men.
well, I understand humans, out of 50 members that we have on the roster, I think we're at 50 or 60% have
That's good.
somewhat of a certification or are almost there. Like I've just taught a 64-hour class for 15 members. And
Is Bell Buckle still out offering out classes over
Yes.
there free of charge?
they are, depending on the class, it is difficult for the guys to down for long periods of time. But for like live burns and stuff, they're still going to that.
Okay.
And then Gouldsville is also training some as well, helping us out.
I would like to know more information about this utility.
I was just getting ready to say, Mr. Chairman, that I think it's been a very healthy meeting. To me, it's a hard sell. I'll just be quite honest with you. But enough things have been brought up here that I would really like to research and do some study. So I think a lot of things have come forward that we can study between now and our next meeting.
We knew that we weren't gonna get it solved.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to bring some information back on the utility district. I don't know, is that something we need to do on our end, or?
I've been taking this as they're presenting to us
Okay.
something, but I don't mind putting some time into it.
Yeah, if y'all could bring some more information about the utility district subscription. Invite a couple of more of your chiefs from different parts. What was it you said, Mr. Hyde?
By the utility district subscription
Yeah.
service, and I will be glad to call Joseph and see, you know, what, his mom and dad live there in that area, and, he lives in the Knoxville area. But, yeah, I'll be glad to look at, research that.
We just need as much information as we can, and like I said, we're not against giving you money, we're just trying to figure out a way to do it.
Absolutely.
Legally and
My problem with, you know, something that seems to just be growing pretty quickly is that we have, things in the, well, like volunteer so many things already. If we're good today with finances, that doesn't mean we will be next year.
Right.
And, you have to kind of conserve that money in order to be there for the hard days.
Well, what I always like to, for the ones who live in the city and are protected by city fire departments, the one thing I always like to ask is, would you give up your fire department and go back to volunteer for an extra $100 a year? Just something to consider. I don't need an answer.
But how does that play into anything? Because no, I wouldn't.
Right. I'm just saying in the future, if we're looking at the county as a whole, if we increase the taxes in the future, not now, but in the future, because of the need of us, you know, I don't think anybody's going to argue that, you know what, that's a good reason to increase. I know there's a lot of wasteful spending in government as a whole, not this one. I've watched. I'm very aware of how frugal this city or this county is. But I think out of all the things, you know, we used to have a volunteer ambulance service. We no longer do. There used to be a volunteer police service. We no longer do. The only thing that's left in this county that is volunteer, that is I'd say that's super important to this county that we just have to have, is the fire department. And I appreciate everything that y'all do, and no matter how this ends up, I know the funding we've gotten over the years, we're all very appreciative of, and you're not going to get too many complaints out of us for anything. But I just like to, there's one thing I don't think you're going to get an argument too much out of, at least the county citizens. Now, cities are all different ballgame, having to be double taxed, I get it. But they use us too. They might not always see it, but they do get to use us quite a bit. But at our next meeting, I'll have as much information.
And they have came to y'all too.
Oh, yes, they come to us and we go to them.
Right.
We're in the cities all the time for stuff. And so they're benefiting from us being around as well.
I'd like for the fire department to look more at, also, at ways of, merging, whether that's even a likable subject to discuss or not, because to me, schools merge, school systems merge, there are all kind of mergers that occur for efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that should at least be on the table for discussion.
I think it is on the table. I think the biggest thing that you run into when it comes to merging is when you get somebody who, again, let's take my dad for an example. He's the fire chief of my department. He, you know, he has a full-time job, of course, like everybody else. He's managing the fire department as a whole. Even just one station is very difficult. When you take and try to start managing multiple stations at multiple locations that are 20, 30 miles apart with personnel issues and other things, it becomes difficult and hard for somebody who is, again, volunteering their time to manage something that gets too large. And so, again, if you have two neighboring departments that are pretty close, you know, that wouldn't be too terrible. Highland and no, which one is it? I always get them mixed up. Mitchellville? I think it's Mitchellville. Highland and Mitchellville, they merged a couple years ago, which works well for them. But if you start getting up where Shackle Island, Cottontown, and a few others, and start really spreading out, your span of control really starts to deteriorate because you don't have somebody who's always there managing every moment. So it's definitely on the table, but I will tell you, for a volunteer department, it gets difficult.
Well, we've been at it about an hour and 5 minutes, so let's pick a date.
Which, thank y'all for this. This has been wonderful.
I am going to be out of town.
Well, I'll try to keep it the last week of the month.
I'm going to be gone all last week of this month.
Of June.
Of June.
So that's the week of the 24th you're gone?
What we got to remember, Tuesday the 18th. Does anybody know? Do you know?
If we could do it on Monday or Wednesday the 19th?
I will be heading south that day.
Okay. I'm just trying to get off a C shift so Tab can be here.
Actually, no, that's a holiday.
On the 18th
That's Juneteenth, buildings
Oh.
closed.
no, that's, who said 18th?
I did.
We got planning at 5 and children's ad hoc at 6.
Well,
We'll see here.
Would that interfere, is there any crossover of people, or?
The problem is open to the public. If somebody starts screaming they wanted to go to both of them,
oh my goodness.
hey,
Okay,
I can tell you who it'd
we
be.
get that, and that's,
So about the 19th, that'd be a
That's a holiday.
Oh, that's the holiday. Okay. And the last week you're gone.
I'm gonna be gone from well, we can shoot for the 20th.
I'm gone.
You gone? Well, how about
21st, it's a Friday.
I'm
She'll be
on
on.
the 20th through the 24th.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna be leaving around that last week, and I won't be back till July the 8th, so.
Oh, goodness.
well, let's just look at July, that'll give us time to research some of these questions.
Well, that's true. Do we have any, meetings on the 9th of July?
I'm not scheduled out that far, so
That's the second Tuesday. That's, I believe there is that night.
That's the C shift.
Oh, it is a C shift as well. Which he can move his schedule around.
If he can move his schedule around, would that work for everybody?
July 9th?
Yes.
That would work for me, I believe.
We better grab it while we can.
July the 9th. Same time, same station. Y'all want to try this at 5 o'clock instead of 5:30?
It's hard for me because, let's say I won't be in basketball then. That'll be okay.
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock,
July 9th.
July 9th.
if I see a conflict tomorrow, I'll email everybody and let you know.
I appreciate y'all.
I appreciate you. Thanks for giving me, that was some great advice.